So, with 2024 coming to a close within the next 2 months, we don't have that many more movies coming out this year. Most of the films that are coming are the big sort of end-of-year Oscar films that we're used to getting at this point, but we do have a couple more horror films left. Mainly next week, Heretic comes out, a film that I've heard amazing things about, and at the end of the year, we of course have Nosferatu, the brand new film from Robert Eggers. But without those two films, this year has been kind of insane when it comes to horror movies. So much so that I want to call this year the year of horror. This has been one of, if not the best year of horror films we have had in decades. The amount of great original horror content we have gotten this year is absolutely insane. We've had a variety of different films that kind of cover a variety of different topics in the horror universe. That I personally have 3 horror films in my top 5 movies of the year right now, which is insane. I'm not a horror guru. This is not a horror sort of movie YouTube channel, so that's a pretty big thing. So I want to talk about some of the best horror movies of the year and why you should check them out. And of course, check out Heretic and Nosferatu when they come out, because I've heard both of them are terrific. First one I want to talk about is Smile 2. This is, of course, the brand new film, the sequel to Smile 1, which came out 2 years ago. And this film is a bloody masterpiece. It's one of the best things of the year so far, and that's kind of incredible to say, because it's a movie called Smile. How did this work? Directed by Parker Finn, Smile 2 is a character study about this actress who comes down with this sort of smile demonic disease thing that, you know, exists in this universe. She's this musician who, of course, is a recovering addict, and it's mainly a sort of a character study on what it's like to be a recovering addict in that sort of world and have this grief of your past. And, of course, you have the smile horror elements. This is a brilliant film that is so much better than it had any right to be. Naomi Scott gives one of, if not the best female performance of the year. This is one that I truly think people need to be talking about more and giving a little bit more respect to. The horror elements are great. The direction from Parker Finn is ridiculous. This is a phenomenal film. If something like Smile 2 is not your taste, we've also had some great body horror this year, mainly The Substance. This is a film that is, of course, not going to be for everybody. It is a long, sort of slow burn, gross horror movie, but I know there are a lot of people that really dig this film, and a lot of people that dig this kind of film. If you like these weird, sort of traumatic, body-ish horrors, this one is probably for you. Substance stars Demi Moore, who begins taking this new drug that allows her to essentially clone herself into a younger version that's played by Margaret Qualley, and they have to sort of balance out their lives. It's a really dark movie that takes a very twisty turn that I'm not really sure I personally loved, but there's a lot of good elements here. Dennis Quaid plays Harvey Weinstein, essentially. It's a gross movie that has beautiful cinematography, and it's just really, really out there. We also had Longlegs this year, which is one of my personal favorite horror movies we've gotten in a very long time. Now, Longlegs is the type of movie that you either absolutely love or you just thought was awful. For me, it absolutely hit. Oz Perkins, the director on this one, tells this incredible story about the serial killer Longlegs and the FBI trying to take him down. It's a simple, pretty much FBI investigating a serial killer type story. If you've seen something like Zodiac or those styles of movies, it follows that same sort of tone, that dark, suspenseful cinematography. It's just a really interesting movie with an incredibly unique performance from Nick Cage that you're either going to love or think is absolutely hilarious. There's so many good twists and turns in this story, and it does get a little more supernatural than you would want, but the cinematography and the vibes and the sound design is just so well done here. I love Longlegs. If you want something a little more lighthearted, a little more fun, but still has those horror thriller elements, how about Trap? The brand new film from M. Night Shyamalan, which might have actually been his best film in years. Trap is a super fun movie that still has those suspenseful horror vibes. It's a movie about a serial killer where we actually follow the serial killer as he takes his daughter to a musical concert where the FBI has laid a trap for him. They're trying to catch him, and we follow this very sort of chaotic set of events of him trying to avoid capture. This is an incredibly fun movie that does have its tense moments. It does get a little M. Night Shyamalan ding-dongy ridiculous, if you know what I mean, but it's still a great movie. Go check out Trap. Earlier in the year, we had the first Omen, a film that not a lot of people talked about. It's actually a prequel to the film The Omen, a very underrated horror movie from a bunch of years ago. This is a movie, essentially, that takes place before that about the birth of Satan, or the son of Satan, right? It's the birth of the Antichrist, and it's a very different kind of horror movie. There's no jump scares, there's no sort of slow James Wan-y style horror. This is a whole film that is just trying to tell a very creepy and thought-provoking story, and I think it does a good job. There's performances in this movie that are all solid throughout, and the film takes you down a windy, interesting path that, of course, leads to the setup of the original Omen. This is one that not a lot of people saw, and I think people should check it out. I really enjoyed the first Omen. Another film not a lot of people talked about, Blink Twice. This is the brand new film directed by Zoe Saldana, who, of course, is a very big actress. She played Catwoman in The Batman. This is a film starring Channing Tatum and a bunch of other people about this weird billionaire island where women go and they sort of lose their minds and forget about their lives and everything. It's much more deeper than that, but this is a very interesting film that has a lot of interesting things to say. It's a film that I thought was going to be very one-noted and kind of tell exactly the kind of story you're expecting it to, but there were a lot of fun twists and turns in this one. There's still some good horror elements. It does sort of become a little bit predictable once you get to the halfway point, but I had a really good time with this film, and it does have some thrillery, slashery stuff. Speaking about slasher stuff, probably the best slasher movie of the year, and I haven't seen Terrifier 3, sorry, so maybe it's that one, but I thought it was In a Violent Nature. In a Violent Nature is a brand new slasher film where you follow the sort of Michael Myers / Jason Voorhees figure in this world. You follow the slasher as he hunts and he takes people out. Now, there's a lot of elements about this film that I really did not particularly like, because following the actual killer at times can be boring. There's a lot of long shots in this movie just watching this dude walk around. Nothing much happens. Also, some of the dialogue and the acting early in this film is not great, but if you're looking for really creative and unique practical kills, this movie has some of the best and grossest you're going to see this year, and the film also has a really well-written and well-directed ending. The ending of this movie, even though it does sort of break the whole sort of trope of this film, I thought it was so powerful, and it stuck with me for so long, because it was incredibly tense and freaky. Probably the scariest moment of any film this year was the ending of this movie. It's just really well done, and I'm very interested to see what they do with the sequel that they just announced, so go check out this one. Another one most people wouldn't consider a horror movie, but I kind of do. It's a very different style of horror movie. It's a horror movie that pertains to the whole world and human nature, right? It's not your typical thing. Of course, I'm talking about Civil War. I loved Civil War. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, and it's another one that I know people are very, very mixed on. Directed by Alex Garland, who's one of my favorite filmmakers out there. Civil War, of course, it's a film about an American Civil War, a modern-day American Civil War where the President of the United States pissed off a bunch of states and they have declared war on him. Now, it's a film that pissed a lot of people off because it does not tell you anything about this world. It doesn't tell you why these states are fighting. It does not tell you what the actual lore of this universe is. Instead, it's a film that just follows these journalists as they make their way to the Capitol. These journalists that have to defy death. They have to escape these terrible situations, and they have to sort of encounter human reality. This reality of what humans become in a state like this, in a world like this, in a war. It is a brutal film that depicts war in its rawest form. A form of where, like, everybody's just kind of resorting to their animalistic nature. It's a brutally dark film that is extraordinarily suspenseful and has a great action finale. I love this thing. I don't know why people hated this movie so much. I really enjoyed it. Another great horror franchise film this year, we had Alien Romulus, the brand new Alien movie that sort of took the franchise back to its roots. Pretty much a straight-up horror movie about an alien stalking and killing people on a spaceship, right? Everything you kind of want from this franchise. This one stars Kaylee Spaney, who's kind of taking over Hollywood right now. And although I was not the biggest fan of this film, I had my issues with it that I laid out in my review, I still respect the fact that most people had a fantastic time with this movie, and it was a major success. So if you want new Alien stuff that is similar to the original Alien movies and not the newer Ridley Scott ones, this is the thing for you. And easily my favorite horror movie of the year is Late Night with the Devil. My God. This one's directed by the Carneys brothers. It stars David Dastmalchian, and it's essentially a late night show, right? Think about Jimmy Carson or Conan or like all that stuff. It's a movie that takes place entirely during a late night episode of TV. During the commercial breaks, you kind of get documentary-style filmmaking, but it's mainly just through the eyes of this late-night episode, where this guy who's struggling in the ratings, trying to raise his ratings, on an episode, a Halloween night episode, brings in this possessed girl. This girl who is apparently possessed and wants to bring out the devil on live TV. This is an incredibly fun concept of a film. I've never truly seen a movie like this. It is a film that feels like a complete ride, a complete episode of TV. It almost felt like that episode of... It almost felt like that movie Saturday Night that came out a few weeks ago, but with horror just thrown into it, and it's just so much cleaner and so much better. Every scene of this movie, every second of this script, every beat of dialogue feels like it matters. David Dastmalchian gives one of the most underrated performances you will ever see. The actual horror elements in here feel so real and so grounded, and the direction of how they sell the scares works so well. And the ending, it's another one of those things where I've seen people say the ending of this movie sucks, and it completely throws away everything this movie had done well, and I've seen other people say the ending is brilliant. I am on the latter side of that argument. I think the ending of this film is absolutely incredible. I think it's smart, I think it's genius, and it works with the story they're trying to tell. This is one of my favorite movies of the year, one of the best horror movies in years. Go watch Late Night with the Devil. It's on Hulu. Thank you guys for watching. What are your favorite horror movies of the year so far? Let me know down below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more notifications. I'll see you in the next one.